Alright, so this is going to be a tutorial on how to use FL Studio to create your own songs or to recreate songs that from your favorite video games or whatever music you like. Now, the first step is to obtain a copy of FL Studio, and that is up to you. I'm using FL Studio 9, so if you're using a different version, things may be a bit different. I don't know because this is the only version I've used. Now, first off, we want to decide what song that we want to recreate. So, we're going to go to the internet and Google, just Google whatever type of sheet music you want. I'm already at a site here, and it's called www.gamemusicthemes.com, and they actually have a pretty good variety of sheet music. As you can see, you go here to the sheet music tab. They have some for different systems. It's not a lot for each system, but you can find some pretty familiar songs off these. So for this one, I'm just going to go to the Game Boy, and let's see. We'll select the game. We'll pick. It does say Game Boy Advance, even though this is Game Boy Color. But for now, there is going to be different ways to download your sheet music, and some ways you may just go to a website and click on something and it'll open up a PDF in your web browser. Others, you'll have to download and extract a file containing the picture or PDF, or you may just have to download the PDF and save it somewhere. It really depends on the website you're getting it from. But the way I do it is I find sheet music and I just reproduce all the notes in FL Studio. But in case you're the type of person who doesn't read sheet music and they prefer to make songs and redo songs from that you've heard before just by ear, I will also be showing you just the basics. I will give a different tutorial video on how to read sheet music, but just for now, I'm going to show you how to work FL Studio. Now, most importantly, you want to get the tempo right. I think this is the first thing you should check out. Not all sheet music will have a tempo, so that you may have to do by ear. But if it does have a tempo here, you will definitely want to go and set that. And the way you set the tempo in FL Studio is you go to this little thing up here near the top that says tempo, and on default when you start a new project it's at 140, but as we can see here for this song I'm at, we want to set it to 135. Little amounts, they may make less of a difference, but you still want to add the tempo right on. Now next you want to just choose a basic instrument that you want to use to just hear the melody as you're composing it, and you can go in and change the instrument later. And FL Studio has a very wide variety of instruments. You got automaton clips, samplers, you got a lot of stuff. You got, I don't even know what a lot of this is. Some of it's pre-recorded voice, some of it's just different sounds like instruments. So definitely have a look and go through that. Look at that yourself. And there's also tutorials on how to use some of the different functions of FL Studios that are more complicated. So you'd go to their file and open and look under the tutorial, and they have a bunch of different tutorials here set up to teach in case you want to learn about the more complicated functions of FL Studio. In this case, I'm just going to be teaching some of the more basic stuff. So and you see here when you start a new project, you have 4 default instruments. It's all percussion, snare, hat, kick, and clap. If you want to keep those on there for later, you can. I prefer to just replace them because I usually don't use them. You can always go and find them again in the variety of instruments. Like I'm not going to look for it right now, but you can find them there. So what you can do is you can pick a sound off of this left sidebar and drag it over the one you want to replace it, and as you can see, kick was replaced by accordion 2. Or you can drag it in between 2 bars and it will add another one. And if you have multiple channels with the same instrument, it'll number them. Like, so here you see I have accordion 2, which is the name of the instrument, but I have another accordion 2 down here, but this one has a number 2 after it to show that it's the second one. But you can also, another way to add or remove, there's no way to remove a channel by just clicking and dragging. So what you have to do is right click on it and select delete, and that's simple enough. But another way to add different instruments or replace them is to right click on it, and you can either go to insert or replace, and they do what you'd think. Replace replaces the channel you right clicked on with whatever instrument over here you want. And keep in mind, this isn't even all of them, this is just some of the more basic ones, and insert will insert it without replacing any of them. So in this case, once you're just getting your basic melody started, I recommend either starting with the 3X OSC or FL keys. And what these are is the 3X OSC is simply, I want to call it a bit tracker. I'm not sure if that's the correct name for it, but it makes bleeps and bloops as if you're making a chiptune or older style video game music, and you can mess around with that to make different sounds. And then FL keys is just a standard piano. You can change it to an organ, other stuff like that. And so, depending on what you want to just hear the melody like as you're creating it, you select one of these. So I'm going to choose the 3X OSC for the time being, just because I prefer that. And now you can get on to making your song. So what you do is you select the channel you want to start putting the melody into by left clicking on it, and you can see that it's indented here and it has a green light next to it depending on which one you click on, and it will also bring up a little thing here with a piano and some various settings you can edit. I'll be explaining that later. And now to do this, you want to mess around with these buttons up here. This one on the far left right here, that shows and hides this big thing, which we'll get into later. This shows and hides this part with all your channels in it. This removes the left thing, but the one in the middle here is your piano roll, and what that is it's basically this thing where you can put notes on and create your melody. And you press left click to place a note and right click to remove it. So that's what you can do. Now, if you're familiar with musical terms, this 4 bars is a measure, and then 1 bar is a beat. So it has that divided like this by default. You can change that by going up to here where it says 1/4 beat and changing it. You can change it to line. That doesn't do anything. Some of it has to do with how you will drag. Like, let me demonstrate. If you can place a note here, and it's on, oh, excuse me, 1/4 beat is what I wanted on, because that's the default. You gotta remember the difference between beat and step, because that can make a crucial difference when you're trying to edit. But for example, when you have it on 1/4 beat, if you try to drag a note, it will move it by one little box at a time, because that's 1/4 of a beat. However, say you have it on half a beat, now you see that it's split and there's only 2 little boxes per beat. So when you try to move it over, it'll move it over a whole half instead of just a quarter. And the same with a third and a sixth. And step, I believe, is, I'm not quite familiar with what step does. It's not necessarily as important. Step is the little step is even smaller subdivision of the beat. So for example, if you put it on half step here, you'll drag it by only half a little square every time you move it. You can drag it by smaller intervals. So if you want to get even more precise, you can do that. But for now, I'm just gonna have it on 1/4 beat because that's the simplest. And I'm sorry if this is a lot of information, but I'm just trying to go over some of the basics of editing here for the moment. If you double click on any note in your thing, you can double click on it. I wouldn't mess with these unless you're more professional with music editing. You can edit the pan and the velocity and all that has to do with the sound waves. But more importantly, I want to focus on the start time and the duration. The start time is where the note starts on your whole piano roll. As you can see up here, there's the numbers of the measures. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the beginning is 1 and 1. And so, as you can see, it goes up to 16, and that's because there are 16 of these little squares per measure. So we're going to start it on 1, 1, which starts it on the first one in the first measure. And then the duration, here you can see 4, it goes on for 4 of these little squares. You can change that. Say you set it to 1, it'll only go on for 1 square. Of course, it's simpler to just drag it if you just want to go by quarter beats at a time or specific beats. It's simpler just to change this to your liking. But this is more if you want to get it down to specific. Like, say you want to have a staccato note, a note that doesn't blend into the next one. You can slightly lower the duration to about 20, because it goes up to 23 and then resets at 0. So say you lower the duration to however many squares, and then set it at about, I'm sorry, my mouse is glitching out here. You set it to about 20, and 19, 20, and you'll see that there's a little gap, and it'll make it a staccato note as opposed to more of a blended note, and you can hear that here. And that's opposed to what it would be like if they all blended together. And you may not have to do this with some instruments just because of the way they're programmed. You may have to do it with some others. Yeah, as you can see, they blend together more so. Depending on what type of note you want, that's how you would do that. And that's basically the gist of it. You can do chords and everything by putting multiple notes onto one thing. Not sure what this will sound like. I'm just demonstrating. Yeah, see, and you can see that's a chord, and then you got your normal notes. So you can do a wide variety of things. And you can also add other instruments. And what I prefer to do is, if you're doing sheet music like I do, you have a treble and a bass. So what I prefer to do is have one channel for the treble and one for the bass. That way you can change their instruments and make them two different instruments later, instead of having them both in just one. So that way, say you want this to be a piano for the treble, but a bass guitar for the bass, or whatever your preference is. You can change that by doing it that way and having them in separate channels. So that's always nice. And what you do is, if you have them in the same pattern, as you can see here, it says pattern 1, and it's also highlighted down here. So say in the treble, which is going to be my 3x OSC, my bass will be number 2 here. So say in the treble I put this long note, and in the bass I want to have some sort of rhythm or something going on in the bass. So I'd have the long note in the treble, and then I put my smaller bass rhythm notes here. And you'll see in just a second as I do this. Alright. Yeah, so as you can see, that makes a bass rhythm while the longer note is playing. But, however, say we want them to be used at different times. Because what you're going to do with this big thing is you're going to put your whole melody together in it. As you can see, there's the big note there. And if I decide to put other notes, it'll add them into just the pattern 1, as you can see by those little lines. If you do this, it just kind of makes like a beat sound, more like a percussion, single tone. If you do these little things, I recommend that using that more for drums or rhythm or percussion, your choice. But so yeah, we have this here in pattern 1. But say we want to have an independent melody in pattern 2. You can put that in pattern. What you do is you select pattern 2 here. Alright, so you'd select pattern 2 down here. And now I'm going to select my 3x OSC number 2 in pattern 2. And as you can see, the first one from pattern 1 only appears when I select pattern 1, because I have not put anything into that channel in pattern 2. So here I'm going to go into my 3X OSC number 2 and channel 2 and make that same basic bass rhythm thing. So see, now you can only hear that. But if you go into channel 1 and you press play, you can only hear that. And by the way, a shortcut for the play button is the space bar. So you can do that, and they will play independently of each other. But now you may be asking, well, how do I hear everything put together? What you do is, since I already have pattern 1 put up here into this big arranger thing, I'm going to now select pattern 2 and place it here, and start them both at the same time. And then you select this. Up here you can see one button says pattern, the other says song. Pattern appears as an orange light when it's selected, and song appears as a green. When you select song, it plays whatever is in here. When you select pattern, it plays whatever is in your selected pattern. So if you play song, so that's how you do that, and you can have an endless number of tracks and patterns and all that. And yeah, just you won't need to worry about running out of space. You can also use it down here. So like say this one works a bit differently. So say I place this block in pattern 1, right? And then I place 1 in pattern 2. Notice that they are different sizes. That's because whatever section you click on, if you click in the line of pattern 1, it will automatically place the pattern 1 sound. If you click in the line of pattern 2, it'll place the line of pattern 2. And as you can see, it does the same thing. So whichever way you prefer to do it, I prefer to do it this way just because I can see the notes and be a bit more precise with that. But yeah, that's how you do that. You can also you can double click on a track to see what's in that track. But you can right click it and rename it. So say I want to name this main melody so that I can remember that's the main melody. And I want to rename this as bass if I want to remember that that's the bass. And you can set an icon, auto name, all these weird options. I wouldn't mess with those because they're not really as important for the basics. And then what you can do is you have a slicer tool right here. It looks like a blade. And what you can do is slice a part of this off and remove it. And have, you can splice parts together, which is cool. And then you can mute certain tracks and delete some and all that. So yeah, and then after you have your melody, you can start dragging different instruments and playing them and see what they sound like. Like as you can see now, this sounds different. You can there's actually some arpeggios, so if you want to get more of a interesting sound, like yeah, like that, you can go to you can pick arpeggios, or this FL Studio has built-in arpeggiators, which you can see by going into a piano roll and pressing Alt and U at the same time and clicking on this little picture of a file here. You go into my folder's melodies. You want to go back a little bit and see into the chopping. Make sure you're in the chopping folder, and you'll have these different sorts of things that will alter your melody. And what you can do is go to arpeggios, and then as you can see, you'll get an arpeggiator. And before you hit accept, you can hit the play button and hear what it sounds like before it starts. So that's just some basics, and if you don't want to accept it, you just hit the X. So those are just some basics. I will be making a tutorial on how to read sheet music, such as this, later. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. And just important, you can go to save, and it'll automatically save it to a .flp file extension, which is just FL Studio project. And if you want to actually save it as you can save it as different sound formats, such as a WAV file, MP3, various things. So if you want to, publish it, give it to your friends and stuff, save it as an MP3 or a WAV or some sort of format they can use. So yeah, Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Rate, and hope you enjoyed this.